Okay, it's Andy Graham of Hobo Traveler. I'm in Lomé, Togo, West Africa, and I'm trying to pound out all the Togo-related or Africa-related questions before I leave in 2 days. It's April 2014. Ada from Holland. I'm so amazed she wrote Holland. Ada, she has a pretty I shouldn't say the name, but she has a Holland name. I mean, she's either Flemish or French, but I think she's the Flemish side. I didn't really ask her that. But there's two languages in a very small country of about 13 million people, right? 14 million. And I consider it one of the most... I love the country because the Holland people are some of the most emotionally balanced people on the planet. Okay. She makes a comment. Americans should be asking these questions too, and they're really, you know, I am happy that a person that reads Flemish, talks Flemish, second language is English, is watching my videos. Think about it. Do you want to watch videos in Spanish? Do you want to watch videos in Flemish? Okay. The young people go to school. And if you drive around, and even out in the middle of nowhere, they'll have a school because it seems like the universal project that you can get money for the NGOs. So they build schools. And there's a big toilet project going on in Togo. It's amazing. You got little plans putting up toilets, and everybody's putting up a toilet. It's really quite funny. But there's projects that are considered socially acceptable, like orphans in schools, and I don't really see many orphans in Africa, but I see a lot of schools, and most people go to school. Whether they're any good or not, that's another question, but they all go to school. You see their uniforms if you watch my videos. So they go to school, they get an education, and then there's no jobs. They end up driving around a motorcycle taxi to earn money. I was just in Kara, Togo, up in the north, about 200 miles from here, and they had a university at Kara. And most all the motorcycle drivers were students. That wasn't to say they graduated, they were actually students working. You know, they'd have a motorcycle, then they would drive around town and then go to school and stuff like that. That didn't make me so much nervous, but the more I would always ask the student, you know, I'd be talking with the motorcycle driver, and a lot of times they spoke English, a lot of times they spoke excellent French, because the French here in Lomé is a lot worse than Kara. And I would ask them what their subject was. And it was amazing how many people were studying law, how many people were studying sociology. I would say of the University of Kara, probably 15% of the people were studying sociology. And my friend Romaric was a sociologist, sociology major, with no job, of course. He was working in a radio station. But as conservative as I can get, 35% of the people were working, were studying, trying to get a job working for an NGO, a non-governmental organization that was, you know, European, American base or whatever, and that was their career, and they weren't looking at it as a temporary job, they were looking at it as a lifetime job, and they were going to increase their status. The other way people increase their status in Africa is to become a preacher, a Christian preacher or Islamic, I don't know, cleric or whatever. And these are your two main jobs. So you have the military job, which is an excellent job, the military government, which is basically who controls all the money, and then the only jobs that pay high and give you a car and everything is the NGOs. So here's a university turning out people that guarantee they stay poor. Okay, I'm sitting there going, I met one guy that was an engineer that was working up in Dapong, and he'd studied in Lomé to become an engineer. I had one guy that was a physics major. But majority of them would say droits, which is law. It means right, which is rights. It was sad when you finally realized that everybody in the university was dreaming on working for an organization that would doom them to poverty. Because if we keep sending, if everybody dreams of becoming an NGO, who's dreaming about starting a business? Now, what is the solution? The solution is people take a long look at this and say, this is crazy. They should be studying, mechanics and architecture and engineering and innovative things and jobs they need. You go in buildings and their design is so bad it's ridiculous. But entrepreneur skills and what is an entrepreneur in Africa? An entrepreneur is a person that gets a job working for the government or becomes a soldier. Or a real big entrepreneur is not a missionary, but a guy that starts his own church. That's an entrepreneur here. If you really want to earn a lot of money, you start a church. So she wants to know what the solution is. We got to stop playing the poverty card. Africa has to just stop it. This poverty card is dooming them to failure. They will always be poor as long as we call them poor and as long as they accept being called poor. They're no more poor than South America or Central America. In a lot of ways, they're richer. They can actually work 1/3 the time as Central or South America and have just as much. In a way, it's not poverty here. It's just different than what you're used to. I make a joke sometimes. The biggest problem with Africa, there's 3 major problems. We have a lot of criminals in America that are black, and everybody thinks that the black people in Africa are the same as them. They're not even close to the same, guys. There's a lot of social strife, a lot of anger in the Afro-American, and it's not here. These guys are in love with me. They're not angry at me at all. The second thing is they got this red clay dirt. It just is like powder. And it makes every photo I ever take look like it's not green, right? It's not black dirt, green thing. And this is like the dust of Georgia. And this powder dust, the street can be absolutely clean and still in the photo or video it looks like it's kind of a dry desert, right? But playing the poverty card, and trust me, I'm tired. I'm tired of them coming up to me and looking at me like some reason I'm their benefactor and I'm supposed to save them. And I never do. I'm a responsible traveler. I only give to people with no legs, no arms, no eyes, or extremely old. I call it the body parts. You got to be missing a body part to get money from me. I call it the body part theory. But if you want to stop the poverty that causes no jobs to come here, you stop calling the place poverty, and they have to stop being told they have to be stopped. We have to just say they're normal people. We have to treat them just like we do and say, hey, start a business, start a job, do this, and stop acting like they can't do it. And stop calling Africa poor, and Africa's got to stop calling itself poor. But it's a race to the bottom. These Sierra Leone, Niger, and Burkina Faso, they almost race to see that they're at the bottom so that they can get the most amount of aid coming to the country. And that's playing the poverty card. And as long as the poverty card exists, nobody with the enterprise business card is going to play theirs here. They're going to go to a place like China, which is probably just as wealthy, just as whatever, but is enterprising. They're where business is coming from. What's the difference? The labor here is about the same as China, but all the businesses go there because it plays the poverty card. It doesn't act like they don't have the I can do it. They have, oh, feel sorry for me, poverty. But who's to blame? It don't matter. It's been colonization ended in 1960. This is about 50 years ago. It's time to grow up and stop playing the poverty card. But the minute you say that, somebody's going to call you racist, right? So this is the bottom line. We're all afraid to talk about the truth, and because anybody with any, even you hear NGOs talking like, oh, poor them. And I'm going, poor them. They're sitting around all day playing on their smartphone. Most of these people have a smartphone that costs more than my phone. I'm always laughing. It's not that they're rich. It's not that they're poor. They're just normal people doing what they do, and they basically are living at the same status as everybody around them. The TV's elevating the status because people look at TV and they start copying the television. It's really a very good thing to make people clean their hands. They see on TV that the people are clean and they go, whoa, I'm not like that. They compare themselves to the TV people. If they compare themselves to the other people around here, they're just the same. But the TV is like, oh, you know, so it's a real cleansing thing to watch TV and see a family on TV that's living in a real nice house and behaving properly and having good manners and all that stuff, because it's a good educator. And I was going to take a picture the other day. There was a real slummy looking area over here. I'm in a real bad area of Blomey. It's a real old area. And there's a group housing over there, and there was about 8 houses. Every single house, there was like 10 antennas, little bamboo sticks up there with this little homemade type aluminum antenna that they sell. They sell it. They actually make antennas. And everybody there had a TV, even though you would consider it like, it would seem to be like the lowest priority there is. But it's not. It's very high priority. The cell phone's high priority. The motorcycle's high priority. But, you know, there's no competition for houses because all the houses look kind of the same. So the solution lies in not allowing the poverty card to be played, so that businesses come and people think about jobs instead of thinking about, I'm poor. Very hard to think about starting a business when you keep your self-dialogue says, I'm poor. It's like a grinding of the spirit. What you say is who you are. And they're told everything, you know, every sign is, it's just horrible. But I could talk, one of these days I'll talk about the chefs of Africa. The minute they become a chef, they stop working. So anybody that becomes a boss stops working and goes to the bar. So the smartest of the smart don't work. So it's a self-sabotaging culture because the chef never worked. So everybody that becomes a chef, the chief of the village, stops working. So if they become the boss of the business boss don't work. He comes in, does a thing, tries to flirt with a couple girls, and leaves and goes drink spirit. It's really a self-sabotaging business model. And it's rampant. You know, you see the smartest person in a business not working. So there's a lot of problems. But it's not my problem. It's Africa's problem, and they're a big boy, and they can save themselves.